Like so many surprisingly compelling occupational reality TV series, Rust Valley Restorers succeeds in large part thanks to the unique collection of personalities around which the day-to-day events revolve. In the case of the Canadian-based car restoration show, those personalities include the instantly recognizable auto shop owner Mike Hall. For decades, the host of the highly popular Rust Valley Restorers TV series has tended to his 550-strong collection of cars in Tappen, British Columbia, returning some to operating condition and simply keeping others for posterity's sake. But it came as a huge shock when Mike suddenly decided to sell off all of his beloved cars. There are a lot of things about Mike that nobody knows. So what happened to him during the show? And why did he decide to sell his life's biggest dream collection in an instant? Let's dive deeper and learn a little more about Mike Hall and the real story behind Rust Valley. If you want to know all about it, then stay with us until the end of the video. And let's get started. Mike Hall is a man who transitioned from performing sporadic physical labor to adorning TV screens worldwide by having a passion that also became everyone else's. The Mayhem Entertainment production company was intrigued by what Mike had to offer and eventually approached the History Channel with his ideas. Rust Valley Restorers was then founded in an instant and made its debut in 2018. The show centers on Mike, his friend Avery Schoaf, and occasionally his son Connor Sharman Hall as they travel around the country collecting common wreckage, old useless cars. The vehicle is then transformed from what appears to be scrap metal into a real ride that can compete with the market's best at Mike's Rust Bros Restorations. Mike Hall is a well-known name in the classic car restoration business, as he is the co-owner and chief mechanic of the Tappen, British Columbia-based company Rust Valley Restorers. Hall has been restoring classic cars since the 1990s, and the caliber of his work has earned him national and worldwide praise. The main component of this engineering strategy is spending a little money and producing a lot more, albeit these endeavors don't always succeed. Mike has to find a buyer for each old car that he restores because not everyone appreciates them or the amount of work that has gone into them. The performance itself is much more enjoyable, but occasionally the invested money is lost, making Hall's daily life insecure. Hall's passion for classic cars is evident in all of his work. He prefers to restore classic cars using traditional techniques and materials rather than using cutting-edge technology. His team puts a lot of effort into preserving the history of the car rather than just making it seem fantastic. Due to his restless hard work, the historic vehicle community has given Mike's tactics high praise. Moreover, he's repaired several rock face sculptures and went by the name Raster Blaster. He made efforts to create safe settings wherever he carried out the work. Then, with a subsequently enviable income, Hall discovered the time to unwind and focus on his actual interest. On the weekends, he would comb through old garages, junkyards, and scrapyards, looking for hidden gems that he could fix. Hall returned to British Columbia and started Rust Brothers Restorations after successfully completing a number of lucrative assignments. Over 400 muscle cars were kept at the facility and occasionally repaired there. Since it was all a passion project, he initially had no plans to sell any of the cars, but he made a discovery that inspired him to quit just hoarding and rebuilding. According to sources, he said, "I'll be 62 soon, and my dad died at 60. I've seen buddies dying or running into health problems, leaving their families with all kinds of stuff to deal with. What are my wife and kids going to do with 400 cars in a field?" Hall, who had spent the majority of his life working, consequently concluded in 2016 that it would be best to sell everything. In addition to all the vehicles and the entire shop, he offered his 5-acre property in Tappen, BC, located off the Trans-Canada Highway, for $1.19 million. But in 2017, after a year with almost no sales, Mike increased the asking price to $1.45 million, which seemed to be a hit. A startling tale of an elderly Canadian man selling a sizable plot of property together with hundreds of restored cars appeared out of nowhere. Individual car orders started pouring in as a result of the obvious desire of collectors from all over the world to get in on the action. As word of the news spread, numerous production companies scrambled to hammer out a deal that would guarantee Mike's story and knowledge for anyone they planned to present the documentary to. Eventually, Matt Schuck and Tyson Hepburn of Vancouver's Mayhem Entertainment secured the agreement, launching a guy nearing the end of his career into a new life he never anticipated having. However, not everything is peachy for the devoted mechanic in Tappen, despite the show's 4-year run and tremendous growth. For instance, Mike had budgeted about $15,000 for the restoration of a 1966 Lincoln Continental, but it ultimately ended up costing much more. Finding buyers for the car at a price that generates an actual profit can be difficult depending on the model, but it's not always the case. Another example was his highly praised Chevelle SS 396, which ultimately sold for only $10,000, much less than Hall's estimated $25,000 minimum. He only accepted the offer since it would at least allow him to continue operating the shop, which is sometimes the best he can hope for. It's usually split between one of Mike's passion projects and then a customer's particular order, with the latter generally being more difficult to accomplish. Though at least there's a guarantee of profit in that case. Moreover, Mike also never showed much interest in modern cars because he was normally an old-fashioned guy. As a result, practically every car shown in the series is made in America. These are the cars he enjoys working on since they remind him of his formative years when he first discovered his love for the motor industry. So while brand new machinery does little to seduce him, the question that most audience members ask when viewing any reality TV series is how much of it is real. Well, it seems hard to falsify what happens in front of the camera because of this particular series' straightforward and simple basis. But that conclusion is a little shaky. Even Mike has acknowledged that things at Rust Valley Restorers are not always how they appear on television. Another thing that could possibly be fake is the sheer luck that Avery or Mike occasionally seem to have when exploring junkyards for cars that might be fairly expensive in their restored state and for which collectors would pay excessive amounts even in the worst possible shape. So even if these occurrences don't happen regularly on the show, they do make skeptics wonder. Though no one is blowing whistles and there aren't many unfavorable rumors about the show, doubts regarding the validity of events that happen in Mike's day-to-day on the set are rare. According to rumors, Mike keeps anything connected to Rust Valley Restorers well away from his family's entryway. The TV legend's wife and their dog Minnie live on a 26-acre farm. Hall's better half has specifically instructed him to not bring any of the vehicles close to this expansive property, whether they are gleaming collector automobiles or rusted junk. So what is Mike up to nowadays? Even after the fourth and most well-liked season of the show, Mike is still looking for a wise investor to take over the entire company so that he may retire and be with his wife. Apart from this, Hall himself isn't especially into social media, but his business has accounts on a lot of the platforms, including Instagram. His son is mostly in charge of it, and he frequently uploads selfies while he goes about his everyday activities. Mike is still as busy as ever doing what he does best, working with his son and best friend Avery Schoaf to restore classic and vintage cars. He is now running his own restoration company, so there will likely be more competition when the TV series goes through in 2023. That's all for today. If you're interested in more, have a look at this video. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe.